Do you remember the first time you looked up at the night sky and wondered if we were truly alone in the universe in 1977? Steven Spielberg gave us a film that transformed that eternal question into a cinematic masterpiece that would forever change how we imagined contact with beings from beyond our world. Close Encounters of the Third Kind wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural phenomenon that captured the hearts and minds of millions, earning over $300 million worldwide and securing its place as one of the most influential science fiction films ever made. This wasn't your typical alien invasion story filled with lasers and destruction. Instead, Spielberg crafted something far more profound, a tale of ordinary people drawn into an extraordinary experience. Their lives forever changed by mysterious lights in the sky. The film's revolutionary special effects, John Williams' haunting five-note musical sequence, and deeply human story earned it 8 Academy Award nominations, winning 2 Oscars and leaving an indelible mark on cinema history. At the heart of this cosmic journey stood an ensemble of remarkable performers. Richard Dreyfuss brought raw intensity to Roy Neary, an everyday electrician whose UFO encounter transforms him into a man possessed by visions he cannot explain. Terry Garr portrayed his increasingly desperate wife, Ronnie, watching helplessly as her husband slips away into obsession. Melinda Dillon gave us Gillian Guyler, a single mother whose young son Barry, played by the angelic Carrie Guffey, is taken by the visitors from above. And in an unusual casting choice that proved brilliant, legendary French New Wave director François Truffaut stepped in front of the camera as scientist Claude Lacombe, joined by Bob Balaban as his translator David Laughlin. These actors didn't just play their roles, they made us believe. They made us feel the wonder, the terror, the overwhelming compulsion to seek answers in the stars. But as the final credits rolled and the mothership ascended into the heavens, life went on for the talented individuals who brought this extraordinary story to life. Some would ride the film's success to even greater heights. Others would face unexpected challenges, personal struggles, and the unpredictable twists of fate that touch us all. Nearly 5 decades have passed since Devil's Tower lit up with those unforgettable rainbow lights. The boy who played Barry is now in his 50s. Some of our beloved cast members have left us, while others continue their journeys in ways both surprising and inspiring. What happened to these actors after they said goodbye to the visitors? How did their lives unfold in the decades that followed? Join us as we turn back the clock to 1977, then fast forward to 2025, tracing the remarkable paths of the stars who made Close Encounters of the Third Kind an eternal part of our collective memory. Remember that haunting image of Roy Neary, his face illuminated by the ethereal glow of the mothership, tears streaming down his cheeks as he finally understood what the visions meant? Richard Dreyfuss made us believe in that moment of transcendent wonder, embodying the everyman who dared to chase the impossible. At just 29 years old, Richard Dreyfuss was already riding a wave of Hollywood success when he took on the role of Roy Neary. With his expressive face, intense eyes, and nervous energy, he'd already captivated audiences in American Graffiti and Jaws, the latter making him a household name. Spielberg specifically wanted Dreyfuss for Roy because he could convey both ordinary relatability and extraordinary obsession, a man you'd meet at a neighborhood barbecue who suddenly becomes willing to abandon everything for a glimpse of something greater. The shoot was notoriously challenging. Dreyfuss spent months covered in mud and shaving cream, sculpting mountains in his living room, conveying a man slowly unraveling while remaining sympathetic. His performance was magnetic, vulnerable, yet determined, losing his grip on normalcy while gaining something far more profound. Just months after Close Encounters premiered, Dreyfuss won the Academy Award for Best Actor for The Goodbye Girl. becoming the youngest man ever to win that honor at age 30. He was on top of the world. Hollywood's golden boy with seemingly limitless potential ahead. Today, at 77 years old, Richard Dreyfuss remains one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces. Though his journey through the decades has been anything but smooth sailing, following his early triumphs, Dreyfuss continued delivering powerful performances in films like Whose Life Is It Anyway?, Down and Out in Beverly Hills, and earned another Oscar nomination for Mr. Plain, Holland's Opus, in 1995. Playing a devoted music teacher whose story touched millions. But behind the success lay personal battles that nearly destroyed him. Dreyfuss has been remarkably candid about his struggles with bipolar disorder and cocaine addiction in the 1,980 seconds. In 1982, he nearly died in a car accident that he's described as a wake-up call. He entered rehabilitation, got sober, and became an advocate for mental health awareness, speaking openly about his diagnosis and recovery in ways that were rare for Hollywood stars of his generation. His personal life has seen its share of changes: 3 marriages, 3 children, and now, grandchildren who call him Papa. In recent years, Dreyfuss has become somewhat controversial for his outspoken political views and comments that have occasionally drawn criticism, yet he continues to act, appearing in films and television, teaching master classes, and remaining engaged with his craft. The fire that burned in Roy Neary's eyes still flickers in Dreyfuss today. He's a survivor who has faced his demons, rebuilt his life, and continues creating. The boy who once looked up at the stars in wonder has become a man who understands that the most challenging encounters aren't always with visitors from space. Sometimes they're with ourselves. If Richard Dreyfuss embodied the wonder of close encounters, Terry Garr represented its human cost, the grounded reality of a woman watching her husband slip into obsession, her normal life crumbling around her. At 33, Terry Garr was a dancer-turned-actress with a warm, approachable beauty and impeccable comic timing. She'd paid her dues dancing in Elvis movies and making countless television appearances before landing more substantial roles in Close Encounters. She played Ronnie with heartbreaking authenticity, not a villain opposing Roy's quest, but a terrified wife who just wants her husband back, who sees their suburban dream dissolving into madness. Her scenes crackled with genuine emotion. When Ronnie tries to hold her family together as Roy destroys their living room building a mountain, Garr made audiences feel her desperation, confusion, and ultimate helplessness. It was a performance that showcased her dramatic range beyond the comedic roles she'd become known for. The film raised her profile significantly, leading to meatier parts in major productions. She landed a career-defining role in Tootsie alongside Dustin Hoffman, earning an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress in 1982. Her quirky charm and girl-next-door appeal made her one of Hollywood's most sought-after actresses throughout the late 1,970 seconds and 1,980 seconds. Terry Garr's story is one of both resilience and bittersweet challenge. Now 80 years old, she faced a battle that no amount of talent or fame could prevent. In 2002, after years of mysterious symptoms she'd kept private, Garr publicly revealed she had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. She'd actually been living with MS symptoms since 1983 but hadn't received a proper diagnosis for nearly 2 decades. Rather than retreat from public life, Garr became a powerful advocate for MS awareness, serving as national ambassador for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. She continued acting into the 2000s, appearing in television shows and films even as her condition progressed. However, in 2006, she suffered a brain aneurysm that required surgery. Further complicating her health challenges, Gar retired from acting in 2011. Stepping away from the spotlight she'd graced for so many years, she never married but adopted a daughter, Molly. In 1993, finding joy and purpose in motherhood, those close to her describe a woman whose humor and spirit remain undimmed despite the physical limitations MS has imposed. The woman who once begged her on-screen husband to abandon his obsession with the stars now spends her days quietly, surrounded by loved ones, having fought her own very real battles with courage and grace. Teri Garr's legacy extends beyond her memorable performances. She's an inspiration to countless people living with chronic illness, proving that strength comes in many forms. While Roy's journey was about obsession and Ronnie's about loss, Gillian Geiler represented something else entirely: a mother's unwavering love and her desperate search for her stolen child. Melinda Dillon gave us one of cinema's most memorable portrayals of maternal devotion. Melinda Dillon was 38 when she brought Gillian to life. Already an acclaimed stage actress with a Tony nomination for her role in the original Broadway production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, she possessed a gentle, ethereal quality, wide eyes that could convey both terror and wonder, a soft voice that trembled with authentic emotion. Her scenes in Close Encounters remain unforgettable, Gillian frantically trying to protect little Barry as appliances come alive, her anguish when her son is taken, her tearful reunion at the end. Dillon didn't just act these moments, she inhabited them with such raw honesty that mothers everywhere felt her pain. Spielberg knew he'd found something special in her naturalistic, heartfelt performance. The role earned Dillon an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, catapulting her to new levels of recognition. She followed this with another Oscar nomination for Absence of Malice in 1981, solidifying her reputation as one of Hollywood's most talented dramatic actresses. Melinda Dillon passed away on January 9, 2023, at the age of 83, leaving behind a legacy of gentle grace and profound performances. Her later career was marked by memorable supporting roles in films like A Christmas Story, where she played the warm, patient mother in what became a holiday classic, and Magnolia, Paul Thomas Anderson's ambitious ensemble piece. Unlike many of her contemporaries, Dillon seemed to deliberately choose a quieter path. She never sought the spotlight's brightest glare, instead selecting roles that resonated with her artistic sensibilities. She married actor Richard Libertini in 1963, and though they divorced in 1978, they had a son together. Dillon largely stepped away from acting in the 2000s, making only occasional appearances. Those who worked with her remember a consummate professional kind, prepared, and deeply committed to her craft without ego or pretension. She spent her final years in privacy, away from Hollywood's noise, in the company of loved ones. When news of her passing reached her fans and colleagues, the tributes spoke of a gentle soul who brought authenticity and heart to every role she inhabited. Somewhere in the quiet corners of memory, Gillian Geiler still searches for her son among the stars, and Melinda Dillon's tender portrayal ensures that mother's love will never be forgotten. She was a light that glowed softly but illuminated deeply, and though she has left us, the warmth of her performances remains. He barely spoke a word in the entire film, yet his cherubic face and sense of wonder made Barry Geiler one of the most memorable child performances in cinema history. Cary Guffey was just 3 years old when Steven Spielberg cast him as Barry, the little boy who communicates with the visitors with pure, innocent joy rather than fear. Spielberg famously elicited Guffey's reactions by using real surprises on set hidden puppets, unexpected lights. Genuine moments of astonishment captured on camera. The result was magical. A child's performance so natural it didn't feel like acting at all. That iconic image of Barry opening the door to the aliens, his face bathed in golden light, his smile radiant with delight, it became one of the most recognizable moments in film history. Guffey brought an authenticity that adult actors spend lifetimes trying to recapture. Simply by being a child experiencing wonder for the first time, following Close Encounters, young Carey appeared in a handful of other films and television shows throughout the early 1980s, but none captured the magic of his debut. As often happens with child actors, the opportunities diminished as he grew older, and the unique quality that made him perfect for Barry faded with childhood itself. Today, Cary Guffey is 51 years old and lives a life far removed from Hollywood's glare. He chose a path that many former child stars have found healthier and more fulfilling. He walked away from acting entirely. After his last screen appearance in the mid-1980s, Guffey returned to his roots in Alabama. Pursuing a normal life outside the entertainment industry, he's worked in various capacities over the years, including in financial services, and has maintained strong connections to his Southern community. Married with children of his own, Guffey seems to have found the peace and normalcy that Barry's mother fought so hard to preserve in the film. He occasionally attends fan conventions and Close Encounters reunions, where fans line up to meet the little boy who once greeted aliens with a smile. Unlike many child actors who struggle with being frozen in time by their most famous role, Guffey appears genuinely at peace with his place in film history. He embraces being Barry Giler without letting it define his entire existence. In interviews, he speaks fondly of the experience, of Spielberg's kindness, of the magic of being part of something special, but also clearly appreciates the choice he made to live his own life on his own terms. The little boy who taught us that wonder doesn't require words has grown into a man who understands that happiness doesn't require fame. It's perhaps the most fitting ending for Barry Giler, finding joy in life's simple encounters rather than extraordinary ones. While most of the cast were actors playing characters, François Truffaut was something different, a legendary filmmaker stepping before the camera, bringing gravitas and intellectual depth to the role of scientist Claude Lacombe. At 45, François Truffaut was already considered one of cinema's greatest auteurs, a founding father of the French New Wave whose films like The 400 Blows and Jules and Jim had revolutionized filmmaking. When Spielberg approached him to play Lacombe, Truffaut was initially hesitant. He was a director, not an actor. But Spielberg's passion and vision convinced him, and Truffaut brought an understated, contemplative presence to the role that perfectly balanced the film's emotional intensity. Lacombe was the intellectual heart of Close Encounters, a man of science who nonetheless approached the unknown with wonder rather than cold analysis. Truffaut's gentle demeanor, curious eyes, and measured delivery made Lacombe feel like the wisest person in the room, someone who understood that some mysteries deserved reverence rather than dissection. His broken English, real and unscripted, added authenticity to the international scientific cooperation depicted in the film. It was Lacombe who delivered one of the film's most profound lines, "I envy you." A filmmaker playing a scientist who envied those who would make contact with another world. The layers of meaning were delicious. Tragically, François Truffaut's time was cut far too short. On October 21, 1984, just 7 years after Close Encounters premiered, Truffaut died from a brain tumor at the age of only 52. The film world mourned the loss of one of its brightest lights, a visionary who had given cinema some of its most beautiful, humane works. In those final years between Close Encounters and his death, Truffaut continued making films, including The Last Metro, which won 10 César Awards. He never acted again, returning to his true calling behind the camera. When his illness was discovered, it progressed rapidly, giving this gentle artist little time to say goodbye to the medium he loved. Truffaut never married, though he had relationships and fathered 3 daughters whom he adored. His legacy lives on not just through his films, but through the countless filmmakers he influenced. Spielberg himself has often cited Truffaut as a major inspiration, making the Frenchman's appearance in Close Encounters a beautiful full-circle moment. Today, film students still study Truffaut's works, still learn from his revolutionary approach to storytelling, and when they watch Close Encounters, they see something unique, a master of cinema captured on film, his curiosity and wonder preserved forever. Claude Lacombe looking up at the stars mirrors Truffaut's own career, always searching, always questioning, always finding beauty in the human experience. The scientist envied those who would meet the visitors. We envy those who got to experience Truffaut's genius in real time. But thanks to the magic of cinema, both live on. Standing beside the legendary Truffaut was Bob Balaban, whose character David Laughlin served as interpreter and bridge between languages, cultures, and ultimately, worlds. Bob Balaban was 32 when he played Laughlin, already a familiar face from films like Midnight Cowboy and Catch 22. With his slight build, receding hairline, and intellectual demeanor, Balaban specialized in playing smart, often neurotic characters. As Laughlin, he was Lacombe's right hand, translating not just French to English, but also translating the incomprehensible into something humans could begin to understand. Balaban brought a quiet competence to the role. He wasn't flashy or dramatic. He was the professional doing important work, the person who made communication possible. In a film about making contact with alien intelligence, the translator was symbolically crucial, and Balaban understood this perfectly. The role was relatively small but memorable, and it was part of Balaban's consistent strategy of choosing interesting projects with talented filmmakers. He understood that sometimes being part of something great matters more than having the biggest part. At 79 years old, Bob Balaban has enjoyed one of Hollywood's most eclectic and successful careers, evolving from character actor to director, producer, and author. Throughout the 1,980 seconds and 1,990 seconds, he continued appearing in films, but he also expanded into producing, earning Emmy nominations for producing Parents and the television movie Georgia O'Keeffe. Balaban found a creative renaissance working with director Wes Anderson, appearing in Moonrise Kingdom, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and The French Dispatch, perfectly suited to Anderson's quirky aesthetic. He's also become a familiar face to younger audiences through his recurring role in Christopher Guest's mockumentaries and as Lester on the TV series The Comeback. Beyond acting, Balaban has authored several children's books and directed films including Parents and The Last Good Time. He's been married to writer Lynn Grossman since 1977, the same year Close Encounters was released, and they have 2 daughters. Unlike the tumultuous personal lives of many Hollywood figures, Balaban's has been remarkably stable and grounded. He's the rare Hollywood figure who seems to have figured out the secret. Keep working on interesting projects with talented people. I don't chase fame for its own sake. Nurture your family and explore multiple creative outlets. The interpreter who helped humanity communicate with the cosmos has spent his life interpreting human stories in various forms, always with intelligence and craft. Today, Balaban continues working steadily, choosing projects that interest him rather than chasing blockbusters. The young man who stood on Devil's Tower has grown into a Hollywood elder statesman who proves that a successful career doesn't require being a household name, just respect, consistency, and an enduring love of the craft. Among the ordinary people drawn to Devil's Tower by visions they couldn't explain was Larry Butler, a minor but memorable character in the film's grand tapestry. Played by Joseph Summer. Joseph Summer was 43 when he appeared in Close Encounters, playing one of the implantees people who, like Roy, had been given visions of the mountain and felt compelled to seek it out. Though his role was small, Summer brought credibility to the idea that ordinary people across the country were experiencing these extraordinary phenomena. Summer was a classically trained actor who had worked extensively in theater before transitioning to film and television. His strong, authoritative presence made him perfect for playing professionals, military men, lawyers, doctors, officials. In Close Encounters, he represented the everyman caught up in something beyond understanding, adding texture to the film's exploration of how contact would affect regular people. The role was part of Summer's steady building of a film career that would span decades, one character role at a time, each adding another layer to his reputation as a reliable, skilled performer. Joseph Summer is now 90 years old, having built one of those wonderfully consistent careers that define the working character actor. Throughout the 1,980 seconds and 1,990 seconds, he appeared in prestigious films including Witness, The Mighty Aphrodite, Dracula, and X-Men: The Last Stand, as well as countless television appearances. Summer never became a household name, but he became something perhaps more valuable, a face that audiences recognized and trusted, even if they didn't know his name. "Oh, it's that guy," is a phrase that has followed him throughout his career, the mark of a successful character actor. He's been married to his wife Cledenin since 1960, an extraordinary 65-year marriage that has weathered Hollywood's tendency to shatter relationships. They've maintained a life that balanced his acting career with normalcy and privacy, raising their family away from the spotlight's harshest glare. In recent years, Summer has slowed down but hasn't fully retired. Making occasional appearances in film and television, he represents a generation of actors who built careers on craft rather than celebrity, who showed up, did the work excellently, and went home to their families. There's a quiet dignity in that kind of career, a sustainability that many flashier stars never achieve. The man who was drawn to Devil's Tower in search of answers has spent his life finding fulfillment not in the extraordinary, but in the steady, professional practice of his art. It's a different kind of success story, but no less meaningful. In one of the film's most memorable sequences, humanity attempts to communicate with the visitors through music, a 5-note sequence that became iconic. At the synthesizer making those notes sing was Phil Dodds, playing a character named Phil Dodds. Talk about life imitating art. Philip Dodds wasn't an actor at all. He was a real synthesizer player and technician who worked at the Moog facility, and Spielberg cast him to play essentially himself, the technical expert operating the equipment that would allow humans to speak with aliens through sound. At 30 years old, Dodds was part of the cutting edge of electronic music technology. The scenes of musical communication between humans and the mothership remain some of the most thrilling in the film. The idea that we might bridge the gap between species not through mathematics or language but through music, a universal expression of emotion and creativity, was profound. And Dodds was right there at the console, his fingers on the keys that spoke to the stars. His performance was really just doing what he did professionally. But Spielberg captured the tension and excitement of that moment perfectly. Dodds brought authenticity because he was authentic, a real musician doing the real work of coaxing sounds from a massive synthesizer. Unlike the other cast members, Philip Dodds didn't pursue an acting career after Close Encounters. He returned to his true passion, music technology and synthesis. Throughout the decades, he continued working with synthesizers and electronic music, staying involved in a field that evolved dramatically from the analog moogs of the 1970 seconds to today's digital systems. Information about Dodds' personal life remains relatively private. He wasn't a public figure seeking fame, but rather a talented technician who happened to be captured on film doing what he loved. The music technology community knows him, but he never sought the spotlight that some of his castmates experienced. Now, in his late 70 seconds, Dodds represents something special. Someone who was part of a cinematic milestone not as a performer but as an artisan. Someone whose real-world expertise contributed to the film's authenticity and power. He helped create those 5 notes that billions of people have heard, that have been referenced and parodied in countless other works, that have become shorthand for alien communication itself. The man who played the music that spoke to another world continued making music here on Earth. A quiet contributor to a moment that transcended cinema and entered our cultural consciousness. His legacy is measured not in film credits or awards, but in the universal language he helped create, a language of sound that, even in fiction, reminded us that some things need no translation. From the mysterious lights that illuminated the desert sky in 1977 to the present day, we've journeyed through nearly 5 decades alongside the remarkable individuals who brought Close Encounters of the Third Kind to life. It's been a journey marked by triumph and tragedy, by soaring heights and unexpected challenges, by the relentless passage of time that spares no one, not even those immortalized on film. We've witnessed Richard Dreyfuss rise to the pinnacle of Hollywood success, battle his demons, and emerge as a survivor, still passionate about his craft. We've seen Terry Garr's bright talent meet the cruel challenge of disease, transforming her into an advocate who gave voice to millions. We've remembered Melinda Dillon's gentle grace, a light that burned softly but illuminated deeply. We've watched Cary Guffey choose a path away from fame and toward the normalcy his character's mother desperately sought to preserve. We've mourned the too early loss of François Truffaut, whose brilliance behind the camera was matched by his curious presence in front of it. And we've celebrated the steady, enduring careers of Bob Balaban, Joseph Sommer, and Philip Dodds, proof that success in Hollywood comes in many forms. Some found continued glory in the spotlight. Others discovered that life's richest rewards exist far from cameras and crowds. Some battled illness with courage that eclipsed any on-screen heroism. And some left us too soon. Their contributions complete, but their presence deeply missed. Each path was different, yet all were touched by being part of something that transcended entertainment and became cultural mythology. Time is the ultimate leveler. Indifferent to fame or fortune, the young faces we saw illuminated by otherworldly lights have aged as all faces must. Hair has grayed or vanished. Skin has weathered. Bodies have fought battles both public and private. The Hollywood that existed in 1977, a world of practical effects, film cameras, and different social mores, has transformed as dramatically as the actors themselves. Yet the film remains unchanged. A time capsule preserving them all in their moment of magic. What Close Encounters ultimately taught us both on screen and through the lives of its cast is that we're all seeking connection. Roy sought connection with something greater than himself. Jillian sought connection with her lost child. The scientists sought connection with another intelligence, and we, the audience, sought connection with a sense of wonder. We feared we'd lost. The actors who brought these seekers to life were themselves seeking success, fulfillment, meaning, peace, just as we all do. The mothership has long since departed into the cosmos, taking Roy Neary with it. But the legacy of those who told his story remains with us. In every frame of film, every memory of watching it for the first time, every moment we've looked up at the night sky and wondered whether they're still walking among us or have taken their final curtain call, whether they found fame or chose anonymity, whether they conquered demons or were conquered by fate, they're all part of something that will outlive us all. They made us believe in the extraordinary, and that belief, like the 5-note sequence that echoed across Devil's Tower, will resonate forever.